Hi, my name is Rachel. But before I tell you what my own mother did to me on her birthday, I want to ask you something. Have you ever taken someone out only to be betrayed by them the same day? Was it a parent? A sibling? Friend? Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Texas, Florida, maybe New York? I read all your stories. And trust me, after hearing mine, you'll never look at the word family the same again. I still remember the way she smiled at me that night. My mom had just turned 60 and I wanted to make her birthday special. So I booked a table at this beautiful restaurant downtown. White tablecloths, live piano music, soft lighting. It was everything she loved. I even wore the blue dress she once said made me look put together. I wanted to give her a night she wouldn't forget. We laughed through appetizers, shared stories about childhood, and I let her talk about her favorite TV shows for way too long. I sat there watching her enjoy herself, feeling proud. I thought, this is what daughters do, right? We give back. When dessert came, she picked the most expensive one on the menu without hesitation. It's my birthday, she giggled, waving the menu at me like a teenager. I laughed and nodded. She deserved it, I told myself. Then the waiter brought the check. I reached into my bag, pulled out my card with a small smile and handed it over. It's on me tonight, I said. He took it and disappeared. A few minutes later, he returned with a strange look on his face. I'm sorry, ma'am. The card was declined. Would you like to try another one? My stomach dropped. That's not possible, I said quickly, trying to keep my voice calm. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and froze. My account was nearly empty. Gone. All of it. My bonus. The $10,200 I'd just received from work the week before. Completely wiped out. I stared at the screen, blinking. I checked it again. Same result. It was real. I wasn't dreaming. Is everything okay? My mom asked, sipping her wine like nothing had happened. My bonus is gone, I whispered, still staring at my phone. The whole thing. I just got it. Oh, she said casually, waving her hand. Don't worry about that. I used it. My head snapped up. You what? For Lisa's wedding, she said. They were short on the venue and catering deposit. You weren't using it right away and it's for family. You should be proud to help. She took another bite of her cake and smiled. Smirked, actually. Like she had just done me a favor. I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. My hands were shaking under the table, but I didn't say a word. I just nodded and picked up my water glass, pretending like it was all fine. Inside I was screaming. She didn't ask. She didn't even tell me. Just took it. And the worst part? She acted like I should be thanking her. Driving home from that dinner, I didn't say a word. My mom chatted the whole way, humming along to the radio as if nothing had happened. But inside I was replaying everything. That smirk. That sentence. You should be proud to help. Proud? Of what? Being robbed. Later that night, when I finally locked my bedroom door and sat in the dark, I let the tears fall. Not just because of the money, but because of what it meant. The betrayal. The assumption that my hard-earned bonus could be taken without a second thought. You see, that money wasn't just sitting there. It had a purpose. For the past 3 years, I'd worked without a single real break. No vacations. No weekends away. Just long hours at the office, juggling projects, staying late to help my team meet deadlines. I was the quiet one who never complained, never called out sick, never said no. And it paid off. A month ago, my manager called me into her office and handed me an envelope. Inside was a letter and a check. My first real performance bonus. Over $10,000. She smiled and said, "You earned this. You really did." I walked out of that office floating. The first thing I did was call my mom. She didn't answer, probably busy with cousin Lisa or one of her errands, but I left a voicemail just to share the joy. That bonus meant freedom to me. I had planned it down to the last dollar. I was going to finally get my brakes and suspension fixed. My car had been making this awful sound for months and I just kept putting it off. Then I'd take a small trip. Just 2 days at a cabin by the lake. Nothing fancy, just peace and quiet. A real break. And the thing is, thought I was safe. A year ago, I'd added my mom's name to my savings account. Not because I didn't trust banks, but because she once said, "What if something happens to you? At least I can access your money and help." It made sense at the time. She was my mom. Who else would I trust? But I never thought she'd use that access against me. Looking back now, I should have seen the signs. The favoritism had always been there. especially when it came to Lisa. My cousin was the golden girl in Mom's eyes. Even when Lisa dropped out of college, moved back home and went through 2 broken engagements, Mom still called her our little princess. Meanwhile, I was the responsible one. The reliable daughter. The one who showed up. Paid bills. Cooked holiday meals. Changed light bulbs. I thought that meant something. I remember once, last Christmas, I offered to buy the ham and desserts for our family dinner. I'd just been promoted and I was proud to help. But Mom laughed and said, "Oh honey, Lisa's already doing all that." She insisted. She wants to prove she's not just the pretty face in the family. Then she turned to Lisa and added, "You always come through, don't you?" I stood there holding my wallet like a fool. And Lisa? She just smirked at me. That same smirk I'd seen tonight on Mom. So I never said anything. I thought if I just kept being good, kept being the daughter who didn't complain, maybe one day Mom would see me the same way. Maybe she'd appreciate me, not just use me. But tonight changed everything. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about what I meant to her. What I didn't mean. She didn't even think she needed to ask. That's how little she thought of my boundaries. And now I had a decision to make. I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to yell or cry in front of anyone. But I was going to do something I'd never done before. I was going to protect myself, even if that meant protecting myself from her. When we got home, I didn't storm off. I didn't slam any doors. I just placed my purse on the table and slipped off my shoes like I normally would. My mom kicked off her heels with a groan and went straight to the kitchen to make herself some tea, like it was any other night. Like she hadn't just taken my bonus without asking. I followed her in, my heart beating so fast I could feel it in my neck. She was humming as she poured water into the kettle. I waited a moment, then said calmly, "Why didn't you tell me?" She looked over her shoulder, completely unfazed. "Tell you what, honey?" "The money," I said quietly. "The $10,000. She blinked like she just remembered it. "Oh, that." Then she actually laughed, this soft, airy laugh that made my skin crawl. "You weren't doing anything important with it." I stared at her. I had to physically bite the inside of my cheek just to stay calm. She kept going, stirring her tea like we were talking about groceries. "Lisa's wedding is coming up fast and your uncle was struggling with the cost. I figured you'd want to help. It's family. It's family." He said that like it was a full explanation. Like it made everything okay. I turned my eyes to the hallway. My dad was sitting in his recliner, staring at the TV with the volume low. He must have heard us. The walls in this house are paper thin. I waited a second, hoping he'd say something. Anything. But he just sat there, sipping his drink, looking straight ahead. He never gets involved when it comes to my mom. He says it's not worth the headache. That it's just her way. I looked back at her. "You could have at least asked me." He shrugged. "If I'd asked, you would have said no." I felt my chest tighten. "So you took it anyway?" "I didn't take it," she said quickly, defensive now. "I used it for something important. Something you'd have said no to just because you don't like Lisa." "I don't dislike Lisa," I replied, keeping my voice low. "I just don't think she's my responsibility." Mom waved a hand. "You're overthinking. You have a good job. You're doing fine. She needs this more than you do." Those words. She needs this more than you do. That's when it clicked. That's how my mom saw me. Not as someone with her own dreams, her own limits, her own boundaries, but as a resource. Someone to tap into when other people needed things. I felt this heat rising in my throat. Not from yelling, I wasn't even raising my voice. But from the kind of anger that sits deep in your bones. I wanted to scream, but instead I said nothing. I just nodded. "Okay," I whispered. She looked at me suspiciously. "Okay." I smiled, a small, careful smile. "Yeah. You're right. It's done now. No point in arguing." She seemed relieved, even proud. "That's the spirit. You always do the right thing." I walked past her and went to my room. Closed the door gently. Sat on the edge of my bed in the dark. My hands were shaking. I wasn't just angry, I was humiliated. She didn't even see it as theft. She saw it as her right. My father wouldn't even look at me. And Lisa, I was sure, had no clue the money came from me. Or worse, maybe she did and didn't care. I laid back and stared at the ceiling. This wasn't about one moment. It wasn't just dinner or money. It was years. Years of being the good daughter. Years of silence. Of being the fallback plan. The safety net. The dependable one. And now I knew they counted on me never fighting back. But they didn't know something had shifted inside me. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to fight. I was going to play it smart. Quiet. I was done being the silent helper. I picked up my phone and opened my banking app again. Not to cry over the missing balance but to start making changes. Real changes. I couldn't sleep. I lay there for a while just staring at the cracks in my ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of the fridge in the kitchen and the ticking of the old wall clock. My mind was racing but my body felt strangely calm. I reached for my phone. The screen glowed in the darkness, lighting up my face. I opened my banking app again, but this time I wasn't looking at it with shock or sadness. This time I was focused. I clicked through each tab and began transferring the rest of my money, every dollar, into a completely separate account I had opened a year ago but never used. One with only my name on it. No joint access. No shared passwords. Then I opened the settings for the joint savings account that I had once trusted my mother with. The same one she casually dipped into like it was her own wallet. I clicked freeze account. A small message popped up. Are you sure? This will suspend all transactions and card access. I didn't even blink. I hit yes. Then I went through and locked every card tied to that account, every auto payment, every connected vendor. I was methodical. Precise. Once I was done, I sat there in silence for a moment. The kind of silence that doesn't feel empty. It feels powerful. Then I picked up the phone and called the bank's 24-hour fraud hotline. The woman on the other end sounded sleepy but kind. I gave her my details, confirmed my identity and calmly said, I need to file a fraud report. She paused. Was your card stolen? No, I replied. It was misused. Someone accessed my account without written permission and used my funds for a personal expense. I have no record of approving the transaction. She asked a few more questions. I answered each one clearly without hesitation. My voice didn't shake. Not once. She opened the case. Said the bank would begin investigating immediately. And since the deposit for the wedding venue was in my name, and the payment came from my bonus, I could legally reverse it. And I did. I logged into the venue's online portal. Sure enough, the payment confirmation had my email and contact number. I found the cancellation policy, full refund within 72 hours. Thank God it had only been 48. I canceled the reservation. I could practically hear the champagne glasses shattering in my mother's fantasy of Lisa's perfect wedding day. And then came the last step, the one that felt like a cherry on top. The refund request. I filled out the form carefully. Uploaded the transaction proof. Attached my statement. Typed a quick reason. Unauthorized use of funds. Account holder was unaware of transaction. And I paused. My finger hovered over the final button. It read, submit. I stared at it for a second. Then I smiled just a little. If they think I'll stay quiet, I whispered to myself, they forgot who earned that money. I clicked submit. The request went through instantly. There was no loud thunder or flashing light. Just a quiet confirmation message. But to me it felt like fireworks. For years I had let things slide. Let my mom make decisions for me. Let her take from me in the name of family. I'd stayed silent at holidays, let things go during birthdays, smiled through dinners where I was treated like a second-class daughter. But not this time. This time I wasn't asking for anyone's permission. I sat back against the pillows, phone still in hand, and let out a long breath. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even hurt. I was clear. Clear about who I was. Clear about what I was worth. And clear that from this night forward, things would not go back to how they used to be. Let them find out in the morning. Let them wake up and try to swipe their cards at the gas station or coffee shop and see that little message. Transaction declined. Let them wonder what happened. Let them feel what I felt, just for a moment. Because sometimes silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's strategy. And I had just made my first move. The sun was barely up when my phone started buzzing. At first I ignored it. I had no plans to attend the wedding I wasn't even invited to. But the notifications just kept coming. Texts, emails, missed calls. And then, a message from the wedding venue. Payment reversal processed. Reservation cancelled due to non-payment. Access to the venue will be denied without updated confirmation. I scrolled down. There was another email from the caterer. Due to unresolved payment issues, our team will not be delivering food to the event. I blinked at the screen, then sat up slowly, still wrapped in my blanket. It was all happening. The house was quiet, the kind of calm that only lasts a few minutes before the storm. And right on cue, the front door began to shake from someone pounding on it like their life depended on it. I didn't need to guess who it was. I took my time, brushed my hair back, tied my robe, and walked to the door without rushing. When I opened it, there stood my brother, red in the face, fists clenched, eyes wide with fury. "You ruined everything," he shouted. I didn't flinch. "Good morning to you too. You canceled the venue, the food. Mom is losing her mind. Lisa's crying. Half the guests are already there and there's nothing." "Nothing." He threw his hands up like the world had ended. I tilted my head and said calmly, "Tea." He blinked. "What?" "I'm making tea," I repeated. "You look like you could use some." He looked like he wanted to scream again, but I didn't give him the chance. I turned and walked back inside. After a few seconds, I heard him follow me, grumbling under his breath. I poured the hot water into 2 cups and set one on the table in front of him. "Tell Mom," I said softly, "that she should have asked me. Or at the very least, invited me to the wedding I was supposed to pay for." He slammed his hand on the table. "It wasn't about you. This was for Lisa. You're always so dramatic." I took a slow sip. "And yet, somehow, I'm always the one footing the bill." He glared at me, breathing heavy. I didn't say anything else. I didn't need to. Because at that exact moment his phone rang. Loud and angry. He glanced at the screen, then put it on speaker. It was Mom. Her voice exploded through the phone. "What did you do? The venue won't let us in. The food is gone. Lisa's makeup is ruined, she's sobbing. People are leaving. Everyone is asking questions. Do you understand what you've done?" I didn't answer. I just looked at my brother as he awkwardly stared at me, not sure whose side he was supposed to be on. "Hello. Are you listening to me?" I leaned forward and said gently, "Tell her I said, happy wedding day." Then I reached over and hit end call. Silence again. My brother looked down, shaking his head. "You're unbelievable." "No," I replied. "I'm done being used. There's a difference." He didn't say another word. Just stood up, grabbed his phone and stormed out the door. I didn't follow. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't cry. Instead, I sat there in the kitchen, the morning light peeking through the blinds, and finished my tea. The phone buzzed again. Messages from distant relatives, a few missed calls from unknown numbers. I turned it over, screen down. Let them deal with the mess. Let them face the guest showing up to an empty venue. Let Lisa explain why her big day, the one I wasn't invited to but paid for, had fallen apart. Let my mother sit in that chaos, knowing she brought it on herself with her smug little smirk and careless words. I had always played the quiet one, the obedient daughter, the one who gave and gave and gave, until there was nothing left but silence. But silence can be a weapon too. And that day, it spoke louder than anything I could have shouted. I didn't destroy the wedding. They did, the moment they decided I didn't matter. And now, they knew exactly how that felt. After the wedding disaster, everything went quiet. No more banging on the door. No more calls. No more chaos. Just silence. For the first few days I kept checking my phone almost out of habit. But there were no messages. No missed calls. No group chats from my family. Not even a cold emoji from Mom. They were gone. And honestly, it felt strange at first. You grow up thinking family is always supposed to be there no matter what. You try so hard to keep everyone happy, to stay useful, to be needed. But the moment I stopped being their free ATM, they disappeared like I never existed. The silence grew louder with each passing day. At first I wondered if I had gone too far. Maybe I should have talked to them instead. Maybe I should have let it go just one more time. But then I remembered that night at the restaurant. My card getting declined in front of strangers. My mother's smug smile. Her words still rang in my head. "It's family. You should be proud to help." She didn't even ask. So no, I didn't go too far. I went just far enough. A few weeks went by. Still nothing. I started spending that time doing something I had never really done before. Taking care of myself. I scheduled my first therapy session. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I figured if I could untangle even a little bit of the hurt I'd been carrying, it would be worth it. The therapist asked me something simple in the first session. She said, "When was the last time you did something just for you? Not for work, not for family, but just because you wanted to?" And I couldn't answer. I just sat there blinking, trying to think. I had no idea. That question stayed with me the whole week. So the next weekend I got up early, got dressed, and drove to a small boutique downtown. It was a place I had passed by many times but never stepped into. Inside I found something that made my heart skip a little. A soft leather bag, hand-stitched with deep burgundy lining. Pricey, yes, but not outrageous. I remembered my bonus. What was left of it after reversing the charges. And I bought it. No guilt. No second thoughts. Just joy. It wasn't about the bag. It was about finally giving myself permission to want something. To treat myself, after years of pouring everything into people who wouldn't even invite me to a wedding they expected me to pay for. That evening I went home, poured myself a glass of wine, and sat in the quiet. But this time the silence didn't feel empty. It felt free. For so long, I had lived in the shadow of being the good daughter. Always available. Always helpful. Always swallowing my feelings for the sake of peace. But peace that costs your self-worth isn't peace at all. It's prison. And I had finally walked out. The next morning I woke up without that familiar weight on my chest. No dread. No anxiety. Just clear air and a slow, steady breath. The silence continued for another week. Then not a single message from Mom. Not one word from my brother. Cousin Lisa never reached out either. I guess mascara and embarrassment don't leave room for thank yous. But I didn't need any of them to say anything. Because for the first time in my life I knew exactly where I stood. They didn't love me. They loved what I gave them. And once the giving stopped, so did their affection. It's a hard truth to accept, especially when it's your own family. But I'd rather face a hard truth than live inside a fake version of love. So I kept going. I showed up to therapy every week. I took walks without checking my phone. I made a list of things I wanted to do, not for anyone else, just for me. And little by little I started feeling human again. Some nights I still thought about everything that had happened. The smirk, the declined card, the chaos, the screaming. But instead of pain I felt something else. Relief. Because I had finally learned the most important lesson of all. I don't owe anyone my peace. Especially not the people who never protected it. Months later I found myself back at that same fancy restaurant. Just me this time. I walked in, took a deep breath, and sat down at the same table where my card got declined. I ordered the exact dish I couldn't afford that night. The one I had to skip while watching my mom smile like it was no big deal. When the food arrived I took a bite and smiled softly. Tasted even better than I remembered. Across the room I saw a family celebrating. Laughter filled the air. They looked happy. I hoped they knew to appreciate each other, not just for the money or favors but for who they truly were. Then I looked around and realized something important. I didn't need their approval. I didn't owe anyone my hard work, not even my own mother. If the people in your life see your success as something they deserve, something they are entitled to take, then it's time to walk away. It's time to say no. And mean it. This was my moment. The moment I stopped being their ATM. The moment I took back my power. If you have ever been used like this, by family, friends, or anyone you trusted, I want you to tell me about it in the comments. Your story matters. We all need to hear it. Because being used ends the moment you say, no. And that's a freedom worth fighting for. So tell me, where are you from? Have you ever stood up for yourself like this? Share with me below. We're in this together.